Hello.
Hello.
We're here. We're live, and this is the show.
This is the show. So, like we said before, this is our second episode of our podcast.
And what he means by what we said before is that our recording froze permanently while we were recording this episode, and we missed some good, genuine reactions.
So it's been 2 years, actually, since we filmed one of these, funny enough. But we're going to try and make it a more regular thing. But hey, welcome to the second episode. Hopefully this one works out better than the one we tried to film 10 minutes ago.
What we're going to talk about today is basically creepypasta, internet mystery, like generally creepy internet stories.
Yeah, we were kind of trying to think of a topic to talk about, and I don't know. Like, I feel like creepypastas were a big thing to us for a while. Maybe not as much you, but I definitely fucking was reading them like crazy for a while.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of talk about the ones that really made an impact on me, I guess. Not like as a person, but just like, in terms of like actually freaking me out, because that's hard to do. Creepy stories and real life events, that's what creeps me out.
Yeah, totally.
Movies don't typically do that for me, but yeah.
So what we talked about and what we're going to talk about is the story about Cracks, the Sesame Street short that went missing. So essentially, this guy, John Armand, said that he'd seen this short, like, video on Sesame Street.
Yep.
Like one of the in between the show cartoons, and about this young girl who lives in a house, and there's kind of cracks on the walls, and one of the cracks that's above her bed shapeshifts into a camel, and basically what he said, this camel brought them through the world of the crack people, the crack animals.
Yeah.
And at the end of the video, they meet this creature who describes himself as the Crack Master, who grows big and scares the shit out of kids, basically.
And destroys himself?
Yeah, he scares the shit out of kids that watch the video, and he did destroy himself. And this video, spoiler alert, they found it, but the video that they found, you can hear it, and this music is playing in the background. It's really erratic and all over the place. Anyways,
I don't like it.
No,
I don't like it.
So apparently this guy spent like 30 years looking for the video, and at some point, because he posted this account online, like this, he's like, I'm looking for this video. Here's my description of it. He might not have described it exactly as I described it, but he gives a description, and people start responding and say, hey, I've seen this, and I don't know where it is, but I've seen this before. And there's one girl, I don't know her name either. I should have done a bit more research. Even in between when our video was, somebody posts on their blog, she's like, yeah, I've seen this too, and this is my description of it. And so basically, at some point, John Armand gets a fax to his work. We have a copy of the Crack Master video, but you can't show any. We'll show it to you, but you cannot show it to anybody. And they made him, and he had to fax back a contract signing saying he wouldn't post it on the internet or show it to anybody publicly.
See, just sorry to,
it's
but
okay.
that's the shit that creeps me out. Like real life stuff like that. Like, I can watch a movie about a possessed fucking little girl, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
time to sleep.
But this shit is real.
But that stuff freaks me out, man. Like the thought of like, why did they not want him to see that video? That stuff freaks me out. Like, who was in charge And who worked for these people? How did that get made in the first place? And why do they not want people to see it? Like, it doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Obviously, it didn't make sense to him either, because he showed somebody immediately. The girl who posted on her blog about it. He brought her to a coffee shop, said, hey, he wrote her online, said, hey, I have the video. And he showed it to her, and sure enough, it was what she saw too. So she wrote about it online on her blog. And then, so people basically like, okay, they found it, but they can't show it. We're right where we started. Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot to mention how he got it. Was in the mail on a letter that had no return address and was delivered on a Sunday, which is the only day you can't get mail. And so that's weird enough. And it was on DVD.
So somebody came and dropped that in his mailbox. That wasn't.
So yeah, somebody
a postal
showed up.
Worker.
Somebody
showed up.
No, this is obviously unsatisfying, right? He knows it exists, but he can't share it anywhere. And so the founder of the Lost Media Wiki decided that he was going to look for cracks as well. And there's details and of the search, but basically this guy also got an anonymous message in his email, and it contained the Cracks movie. And do you want to watch it again?
Yeah.
Okay.
While laying in her bed, the cracks overhead more and more looked like a camel. Today's a rainy day and I can't go out and play. Would you take me for a ride, camel? Said the camel crack, climb upon my back, and right through the wall.
You know, I'm glad we're watching this again. Because I didn't really notice the music the first time. And you're right, it's super like
all over the place.
Like, it's jazzy in nature, but I don't like it.
No.
We've all been fine. Meet a new friend of mine. She has come to meet crack creatures here. And this is all of you? Yes, now that you're here too. But perhaps not so, said Monkey Crack. At night behind the door, I think I've heard one more. Then let us all go make a new crack friend. So they happily skipped into where they'd never been, and in corner found a giant crack.
Oh.
Who are you, they said. The crack just growled instead and made himself look very big and mean. He said, I am Crack Master. But just then the wall plaster began to crumble to the floor, and where the monster stood were only beams of wood. He destroyed himself trying to be mean. Went each creature to his wall, and each knowing all was well where each
You can
crack
see
went.
how this would freak out someone who was young and impressionable, because Sesame Street, the show that this aired on, is meant for young kids.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And so you might see this and be like, what? It's a cartoon. Like there's tons of worse stuff on the TV these days.
Oh
but
yeah.
you have to take into account the target audience of Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of impressionable stuff that you see at those ages that you remember forever. Like I remember, and I'm sure this isn't as scary as it was, but do you ever watch the Treehouse channel as a kid? There was this one show called Wampa's World. Do you know?
God, that sounds so familiar.
It's like a walrus, and he's like I don't know. They're like puppets, and there's these two Skidoo characters.
Oh man, puppets freaked me out.
And they weren't like marionettes, but they were like like Muppets. But there's one episode where one of the characters goes out on his own, and it's like an Arctic kind of like up north setting.
Yeah.
And he goes out,
I'm sort of like vaguely remembering it right now.
One of the Skidoo animatronics or puppet Skidoo characters goes out on his own and is like away from the town, and he's by himself, and it's dark, and he's like yelling for people to come find him, and that shit like I'm like, that freaked me out, even though it wasn't anything like a big monster or anything like that aloneness freaked me out too. And so stuff like that,
fair enough,
shown
that's scary as a kid.
Yeah, and stuff like that, you think that left an impression on me, like the Crack Master video.
Yeah, like I said, like that would have been something as a kid that would have scared me for sure. Like,
Yeah.
he's not on the screen for very long even.
No.
But I would have remembered that into my adulthood. Like, for sure. I would have been like, what the fuck? Like,
and
you know?
paired with the trumpets and the erratic nature
And
of it.
her weird narration. And you showed me, like, another channel, like, contacted her and stuff. And she wanted to do it more. Like, she wanted to do more takes, which makes sense. But, like, the take that they took that's on there is so, like, unsettling.
It's
like,
funny. Yeah, because if you watch Blame It on George, he plays that phone call. I don't know if it's him who called her or somebody else. But in the phone call, he plays the phone call in his documentary on this. And the first thing she says in that, she's like, "I wish I could have done that over." And what's weird is that she recounts she doesn't remember who made it. Like Sesame Street commissions tons of people to do cartoons and stuff. And so it's weird that she doesn't remember who produced it. But she also recounted that, like, it was a really weird recording session, and that the person who was there to record with her showed up late, and they were like in all white clothing. And don't you think that's strange?
That's so weird, man. Like,
and to this day, it's never been on any official Sesame Street DVD or anything like that. Even though they released their old DVDs that are, say, for adults only.
Yeah, it's like you said. Like, weird things scare us when we're children, right? So I remember one thing personally that really freaked me out as a kid. I still to this day have no idea why. No idea. But there's that episode of SpongeBob where he literally breaks his ass and he has to stay indoors.
Oh, yeah. Are you going to talk about
the gorilla?
Yeah.
That freaked me out as a kid, man. Just a little spit there. That freaked me. I remember watching that episode the first time. Pretty standard episode of SpongeBob. He's got his little penny Kleenex and chip friend and stuff like that. Indoors. Yeah, it's a pretty standard episode. And then I remember it was like, that's not Patrick, or if you're Patrick, then who's the? And it's just like some dude, like a real dude in a gorilla costume, and that freaked me out for the longest time. Now I find it hilarious.
That's so weird that you bring that up, because that freaked me out too.
Yeah.
That specific. And what else is like? Because when I saw, I didn't watch it on TV. I watched it on a DVD.
Okay.
And it's the last episode on the disc.
Okay.
And at the end of it, after the gorilla walks away, it shows a family watching the episode and turning it off, and they're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And that was weird to me too. And then it just ends.
Yeah.
And I'm like
SpongeBob did some weird stuff like that, but that specifically, I don't know what it was. That dude in the gorilla suit that really freaked me out.
He rides away on a zebra.
Yeah. But I don't know, man.
That's fucked up.
You know, another weird thing that freaked me out were the hecklers on the Muppets. The rest of the Muppets didn't freak me out at all, and you'd think like some of those other ones would freak me out, but it was specifically like those old dudes, the hecklers, that just freaked me out. There was something unsettling about them to me when I was young. I don't know what it was.
There was one episode of the Muppets that used to freak me out. I mean, I watched it the other day, and I'm like, this is pretty, like, whatever. But there's this skit where Ralph the dog is Sherlock Holmes, and they have the other dog character that's Watson.
Okay.
And they're investigating a murder. And there's this one, like, this huge Muppet guy. He has a huge mouth, and every time they find evidence, he eats it, and then eventually he eats the murder victim, and that freaked me out as a kid.
Oh yeah, like I get that, like stuff like that just it freaks you out. I don't know. Back to the Crackmaster. So like you said, I think if I had watched that as a child and remembered it,
it would have left an impression.
It definitely would have left an impression. Now I watch it and it's unsettling, for sure. Like you said, the sporadic music, the like weird narration from the lady, and just the crack master himself, because the rest are like animals, and then he's just like, but
there's something about the way he's drawn too.
Yeah, but it's the whole story. The story as a whole that really freaks me out.
Like about how they like couldn't find it for 30 years, and then suddenly this guy got a fax.
Yeah, and like just the fact that like the dude just kind of one day was just like, "Hey, I remember this."
Yeah.
Like of all the things that he could remember watching that show, he was like, "Hey, like, does anyone else remember this? Because I'm just like oddly remembering this." And then like some other girl was like, "Yes, actually, I do." And then it's like the one Sesame Street thing that like you can't find anywhere. Just makes it really creepy. And then how much they tried to do to like not let other people see it. It's fucked. Like it.
You know what's weird? I told a really short and maybe slightly inaccurate, basically the story, but I might have got some stuff wrong. But what's something that's weird is how far the search for cracks went. Like I think at some point somebody found the credits of an episode for like the Spanish version of Sesame Street.
Okay.
And it showed cracks credited, but it wasn't in the episode that they watched.
So they cut it out of that episode.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, why?
Isn't that weird?
It doesn't make sense, man.
And
like,
the fact that somebody would have a DVD of it.
It really freaks me out, just like the lengths that they are going to not let this... I mean, it's on the internet now.
Yeah, it's archived forever.
But I don't like it, man. It freaks me out.
It's fucked up. It
is fucked up. And we were talking about creepypasta, since that's kind of my...
Do you want to transition?
No. I just, we were talking about Candle Cove.
Oh, yeah.
Which, like, reminds me of that. Like, it's funny, like, as soon as you... I don't know if I mentioned, but we had talked on the phone about cracks a little bit, Crackmaster, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
You had told me a little bit about it, not as in depth as we went today, but you had told me about it, and I think you were like, you should look it up, and I meant to, but just forgot about it or whatever. But what's funny is as soon as you brought it up, it reminded me of a creepypasta, which we're also going to be talking about today, called Candle Cove.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know what came first, if this story came out. I don't know when this became a thing, like when people, like, they started doing research and looking into this and stuff. And like the dude that wrote Candle Cove, saw, knew about this story and was like, oh, hey, we could kind of do something similar here, but they are similar in a sense where it's like they're talking about... Candle Cove is basically like this dude recounts that he watched this show as a kid. Now this is like a whole show that he remembers.
Yeah.
And the way it's written is like it's like a internet thread where anybody can respond to it and stuff like that. So he talks about the show that he watched with like these weird puppet characters called Candle Cove. And it was like this weird pirates kids show. Like the boat was alive and there was like a captain and stuff like that. And they all recount everybody that responds to this thread and adds input. Because a bunch of people also remember watching this show talk about like some wax monster.
Yeah, like a melted wax monster.
Yeah, he's like a melted candles and he's really freaky. And I remember like looking it up after, because like it was one of the first creepypastas where I was kind of like, with the way it's written and people responding, I was kind of like, is this real? Like, I know these aren't supposed to be real, but this one feels different. So I looked it up and like there was a picture of the wax dude and I was like, oh, like is this real? But later I found out no, like people made stuff about it, but it looked like it could have been one of those old shows that you watched as a kid on maybe not on Treehouse, but on something. Yeah, you know what? Another thing that freaked me out: the big comfy couch.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, like if I watched it today, I guarantee you it would give me the same feeling as it did when I was a kid, which is really weird because it's not usually like that. Like stuff will scare you as a kid and kind of unsettle you as an adult, but it genuinely like made me like I was unsettled as a child watching that show.
It is strange.
I had a weird fear of clowns too, so that probably played into it a little bit, even though they weren't like super scary looking clowns.
Mm-hmm.
It was just the way the show was filmed and the format of it and stuff like that, and some of the puppet characters on that show, if I remember correctly, and the clown aspect.
Yeah.
Just everything about it. It didn't scare me, but I was unsettled by it. And like I said, I guarantee if I watched it nowadays, it would give me the same feeling. And I guess like back to the point was like that in my opinion was a weird kid show, like to show on like one of those.
That is true. I wonder if it's Canadian, because that would
it
make
is
sense.
it is Canadian. Yeah,
Some of the Canadian shows that you see on TV are unintentionally scary.
yeah,
Because I guess they don't have as big of a budget as Hollywood does.
Yeah,
Probably would be my guess.
it is. Yeah, typically. It is a Canadian show, and it is a weird fucking show. But
I loved that show as a kid.
really,
Yeah.
Oh, I did not like it. My
remember-
mom used to put it on for me, just like because nothing else would be on, and I never enjoyed a minute of that show.
Man, I had the her little doll. I had that.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the name of that doll?
Molly.
Look at you. Oh,
yeah,
man.
I was a fan.
Oh, shit. So back to the story. So Candle Cove.
Yeah.
When I looked at like the pictures that people had made, like it looked like a genuine kids show that would have been on when we were younger, specifically. Yeah. So it was weird for me. I was like, "Is this real?" And then I found out later that it wasn't. And I looked through the comments and people were like, "This was really well done and stuff." But the end of that story was that they actually were just like one of their mothers told them that they used to just watch TV static, so everything was in their heads.
That was that's freaky.
That was creepy. That freaked me out the first time. But it just kind of reminds me of that, like the way this dude just out of nowhere was like, "Hey, like, do you remember this?" And then like,
who can? Does anybody know where this is?
Yeah, and other people are like, "Yeah," except they're obviously different, but it just kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Like my head immediately went to Candle Cove as soon as you told. I was like, "This is weird."
Candle Cove is an interesting one. Because it's told, the one guy, it's told by the perspective of many people.
Yeah.
Because the one guy, he says, "Hey, this show, does anybody remember?" And then it's like a thread of people almost being nostalgic for it.
Yeah.
Like I remember they had this whatever, all these details and like multiple people, and it's just like it's actually not that unsettling for most of it. It's only like at the end when you find out that they were looking at static.
Yeah.
That it really like unsettles you.
Yeah.
I remember they're kind of like, and that was kind of creepy though, because that wax guy.
The wax dude was a little creepy, yeah,
but
because you could kind of picture him, like the way they describe him. I don't know.
I guess it was creepy throughout because they were realizing that the show they were watching was kind of fucked up. But it wasn't me personally, because you told me the story,
right?
Or you read it to me. I wasn't really freaked out until the end because it's like they're recounting all this creepy stuff, and then you find out that they're just watching TV static.
Yeah,
it's just.
And there was another one too, where it was like a guy used to watch this old show. And it was like a weird, like, and I could be totally recounting this wrong, so I'm sorry if I'm totally off here. I'm getting the gist of the story, but I think it was supposed to take place in Russia or something like that, and this dude used to just throw on this weird show and watch it. But at the end of every episode of like this like seemingly harmless kids show, you could hear people like screaming. Do you remember? I think I read this to you and Devin and maybe some others one night when you guys spent the night at my place. But and they used to show this door at the end of every episode, and you could hear people screaming after a kids show.
Mm-hmm.
Another creepypasta. So it's not real, but
well,
the dude, the dude went to find the site where they filmed the show, and it was in some like underground military thing, I want to say. I cannot remember
like a bunker kind of.
Yeah, I cannot remember the name of this one at all, or like super like the details, but he went into this bunker, I want to say, and he saw the door, and when he went through the door, there were like all these like bones and like feces.
So real life like people
they
died there.
They had people people were killing people in some room, and there was like a mic in the middle of the room to like record everything that was. It was fucked up. So yeah, Crackmaster.
I mean, I think we've said all we need to say about Crackmaster.
Yeah, I mean
it's pretty fucking bonkers.
It's like a real creepypasta. Basically,
it's like a creepypasta, but it really happened.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I have some more. I have another one that I want to talk about, but maybe we should get to
a creepypasta. Okay. I'll talk about one, and then you can talk about another.